"You are not even half the woman my mother is," my daughter-in-law said at dinner. I pushed my chair back and responded calmly, "Perfect. Then let her start paying your rent." My son went pale instantly. "Rent? What rent?" Let me tell you how I got to that moment, how a single sentence can crumble 14 months of lies, of humiliation swallowed with coffee, of nights crying over the jewelry I sold to keep afloat the life of someone who despised me in silence. My name is Emily. I am 67 years old. I have 3 gray hairs for every betrayal I have forgiven, and hands that still smell of the homemade bread I kneaded every Sunday for my husband Robert before a heart attack took him from me 4 years ago. This story does not begin with that dinner. It begins much earlier, when I confused kindness with weakness, and a mother's love with being a bank with no closing time. But let us go back to that night, the night everything exploded. I had prepared my grandmother's secret pot roast, the dish Robert loved, using the recipe that takes 17 ingredients and 3 hours of patience. The table was set with the embroidered linen tablecloth my mother gave me at my wedding. Cinnamon-scented candles perfumed the dining room. I wanted it to be special. I wanted to believe we could still be a family. Michael, my son, arrived with Linda, my daughter-in-law, and with Leo, my 14-month-old grandson. The baby reached his arms out to me when he saw me, and that gesture filled my chest with a warmth that almost made me forget everything else. Almost. Linda walked in without saying hello, checking her phone. She was wearing a wine-colored dress that I recognized immediately. I had seen that same model in the window of a boutique downtown, with a price tag of $400 hanging from it. $400. More than half of what I transferred to her monthly for her supposed rent emergency. During dinner, the conversation was tense, like a guitar string about to snap. Linda barely touched the roast. "It is too seasoned for my stomach," she said, pushing the plate away. Michael ate in silence, with that look that men have when trapped between 2 women pulling them in opposite directions. Then came dessert. Homemade flan, made from scratch, with that golden caramel that melts on your tongue. I served the plates and mentioned trying to sound casual that next week my sister Susan would be coming from Phoenix. Linda looked up from her phone for the first time in 20 minutes. "How nice that someone is coming to keep you company," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Because lately I see you very lonely, Emily. Not like my mom. She has friends. She travels. She lives life. You just cook and wait for us to come over." I felt the blow in my stomach, but I smiled. I always smiled. "My mom tells me I should learn from her, not from you." Linda continued, taking a sip of water. "She says a real woman builds a life of her own. She does not live waiting for the scraps of attention from her children." Michael coughed uncomfortably. "Linda!" But she was already on a roll. She wiped her lips with the napkin and looked directly at me, with those dark eyes that once seemed pretty to me, and now I only saw calculated coldness. "You're not even half the woman my mother is." Silence fell like lead on the table. The wall clock marked 9:15. The ticking resonated in my ears, mixed with the buzzing of my own boiling blood. 14 months, $17,000. My marriage jewelry sold. The early mornings waking up with anxiety, wondering if I would make it to the end of the month. All to hear this. I pushed my chair back. The sound scraped the wooden floor like a contained scream. I stood up with a calm that even I did not know I had and looked her in the eyes. "Perfect," I said, and my voice sounded so serene that even I was surprised. "Then let her start paying your rent." Linda blinked. Michael dropped his fork. "What rent?" asked my son, turning to his wife. His face had lost all color. "What is my mom talking about?" And there, in that precise instant, with the flan half eaten and the candles still lit, I began to tell the truth I had kept for more than a year. But for you to understand why that truth hurt so much, I need to take you 14 months back. To the day Linda knocked on my door crying and I like a fool opened not only the door, but also my wallet and my heart. If this story is touching your soul, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will make you understand why silence sometimes hurts more than words, and why kindness without limits can become your own prison. 14 months ago. A Tuesday in October that smelled of fresh rain and sweet baking dough. Linda appeared at my door without warning. It was 11 in the morning. I was watering the rose bushes in the patio, those flowers Robert had planted years ago, and that I cared for as if by caring for them, I could keep him alive in some way. She knocked on the door with her knuckles, soft, almost shy, when I opened. I found an unknown Linda, none of the flawless makeup or the proud posture of always. Her eyes were swollen, red, with mascara running forming dark paths down her cheeks. She was wearing an oversized gray hoodie and her hair tied in a messy ponytail. "Emily," she whispered, and her voice broke like fine glass. "Can I come in?" I led her into the dining room. I served her some iced tea and waited. Her hands were trembling, holding the glass. She breathed deep 3 times before speaking. "I am pregnant." My heart skipped a beat. I was going to be a grandmother. The news filled me with an instant joy that lasted exactly 4 seconds until I saw her face. There was no happiness there, only panic. 3 months. She continued running her hand over her flat belly. And Michael lost his job 2 weeks ago. He had not told you because he is ashamed, Emily. So ashamed. They let him go from the construction firm due to staff cuts. He is looking, sending resumes every day, but... She let out a dry sob. One of those that hurt in the chest. "We cannot pay the rent. It is $1,200 a month, and with what we have saved, we barely reach 2 more months." After that, her eyes locked on mine, desperate. "I do not know what we are going to do. A baby on the way, no job, no money for the apartment. My mom cannot help us. She has her money invested and does not want to touch it. She says we are adults and must solve our own problems." She leaned forward, joining her hands like in a prayer. "I need to ask you something that is so hard for me that I feel like I am drowning just thinking about it." She swallowed saliva. Could you lend us the rent money? Just for a few months, 3, 4 maximum, until Michael finds a job. I swear on this baby I carry inside that I will pay you back every dollar." I looked at those pleading hands and I saw my son. I saw Michael at 8 years old, learning to ride a bicycle and falling over and over again until his knees bled. I saw Michael at 15, studying until 3 in the morning to pass his math exam. I saw the man Robert and I raised to be good, hard-working, honest. "How much do you need?" I asked. $1,200 monthly. I promise that. "It is okay." I interrupted her. "I am going to help you." Linda exhaled as if she had been holding her breath since she arrived. She stood up and hugged me, and I felt her body shake against mine. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You do not know what this means. You are an angel, Emily, an angel." But then came the part that should have alerted me, the part that, looking back, had the unmistakable taste of manipulation. Linda separated from the hug and took my hands. Her voice changed. It became firmer, almost conspiratorial. "But there is something important, Emily. Michael cannot know the money comes from you." I stood there looking at her, not understanding. "It is just that. You know your son. He is proud. If he knows his mom is paying our rent, he is going to feel like a failure. He is going to get even more depressed. And right now, the last thing he needs is to feel worse than he already feels. He needs to keep his head high to find work." I nodded slowly. It made sense. Michael had always been one of those men who carry the world on their shoulders, who prefer to break before asking for help. "I am going to tell him my mom is lending us the money," continued Linda. "She lives in Denver. He is never going to verify. That way we protect his self-esteem and you save our lives. Deal?" She extended her hand like sealing a business deal. And I, naive, trusting, in love with the idea of being the hero grandmother saving her family, shook that hand, deal, 2 days later on October 5th. I made my first transfer, $1,200 from my savings account to Linda's. In the memo I wrote, "For Leo," although we still did not know he would be a boy nor that he would be named that. That night I slept peacefully, feeling I had done the right thing. That Robert, wherever he was, would be proud of me. I did not know I had just signed a blank check for my own humiliation, the 5th of every month, religiously. I transferred the $1,200, November, December, January. The months passed and Michael still did not find a stable job. Linda called me every now and then to update me. He had an interview but did not get it. They offered him something, but the pay was very low. He's about to close something good. We just need 1 more month. And I kept transferring. March arrived with the birth of Leo and with an extra expense. Linda called me crying. The private hospital cost more than expected. They needed $800 additional. I gave them without thinking twice. My grandson deserved to be born in a decent place. April, May, June. By then I had already made 9 transfers, $10,800, plus the $800 extra for the hospital, $11,600 in total. The money came from the savings Robert and I had built over 30 years of work. Every dollar represented 1 less dinner at a restaurant, a postponed vacation, a silent sacrifice made with love, thinking of our future together, a future he never got to live. When the savings account began to thin dangerously, I had to make a decision that still hurts in the center of my chest. One afternoon in July, I took out of the closet the red velvet box where I kept my jewelry. They were not many, but each one had a story. The pearl earrings Robert gave me on our 10th anniversary, the white gold ring with a small sapphire he gave me when Michael was born, the silver bracelet with charms that he bought piece by piece over years, 1 charm for each birthday of mine. I took them to a pawn shop downtown. The man behind the counter, with a magnifying glass in hand, evaluated them with indifference. "I can give you $4,000 for everything." No, $4,000 for 30 years of love, turned into precious metal. I accepted. With that money, plus what was left in savings, I calculated I could continue helping them another 4 or 5 months. By then, Michael will have found something. I repeated to myself like a mantra while walking back home with the check in my purse and my heart empty. August, September, October, 12 full months, $14,400 transferred. In November, Michael finally got a job. Linda called me excited to tell me. It is in a smaller company. The salary is not as good as the previous one, but it is something. We can finally breathe. Then you do not need the rent help anymore, I said, feeling immense relief. There was a pause of 3 seconds that should have told me everything. Well, it is just that the salary barely covers basic expenses, Leo's daycare, food, diapers. If we stop paying rent now, we are going to have to move to something much smaller, in a less safe area. Could you hold on just a couple more times, just until we stabilize? And I, because I still had not learned, said yes, December, January, 14 months, $16,800. It was in February when everything began to crumble, when the pieces of the puzzle that did not fit started to form an image I did not want to see. But that part of the story will have to wait, because what I discovered was so devastating that it changed forever the way I looked at my daughter-in-law. February arrived with unusual heat and with a restlessness that ate away at my insides like termites in old wood. Something did not add up. Something smelled bad. And it was not the trash piled up on the corner of my street. It all started on a Saturday afternoon, while I was checking Instagram on my phone. I am not one of those women who live glued to social media, but since Leo was born, I had created an account to see the photos Linda posted of my grandson. It was the only way to feel close to him between visits. That day, Linda had uploaded a photo. In it, she appeared smiling. Sitting on the terrace of a restaurant, I recognized immediately the Bistro, a trendy place downtown where the cheapest dish cost $40. She was wearing sunglasses that had that unmistakable shine of an expensive brand. And on the table in front of her, there was a glass of white wine and a plate of carpaccio. The caption said, "Because a mom also needs her moments. Self-care is not selfish." I stared at that image for 5 full minutes. $40 on a lunch, while I ate refried beans with toast to stretch my budget, after having transferred $1,200 barely 3 days before. I started reviewing her profile backwards, sliding my finger across the screen like an archaeologist looking for evidence in layers of time. And there it was. Photo after photo, a collection of lies wrapped in Instagram filters. January, Linda at a spa, with cucumbers on her eyes and a green mask on her face. Needed this reset. December, Linda with shopping bags from the mall. Santa arrived early this year. November, Linda showing off camel-colored leather boots. When you spoil yourself because nobody else will. October, Linda in a hipster coffee shop, with a latte art coffee that cost at least $12. Fuel for this busy day. Every photo was a stab. Every emoji, a mockery. Every declaration of self-care. A spit in my face. How could this be happening? How could a woman who supposedly did not have money even to pay her rent be living like a cheap influencer? That night, I did not sleep. I tossed and turned in bed until the sheets became a noose and insomnia a courtroom. At 3 a.m, I made a decision. The next day, Sunday, I went to my neighbor Margaret's house. She has a daughter, Jessica, who studies accounting at the State University. She's a serious girl, responsible. One of those who do not loosen their tongue even if tortured. Margaret, I need to ask you a delicate favor. I told her while we drank coffee in her kitchen that smelled of cinnamon. I need Jessica to help me with something. Discreet. I explained the situation without going into all the shameful details, just the essentials. I needed to verify certain financial information about my daughter-in-law. Margaret looked at me with those eyes that understand everything without the need for words. Jessica just finished a forensic auditing course, she said, lowering her voice, and she is just looking to do an internship. Give her a couple of weeks. I gave Jessica all the information I had. Linda's full name, phone number, social media, address. I paid her $300 in advance and another $300 upon delivering results. $600 that I took from the little I had left in savings, money that hurt me to spend, but that I sensed was a necessary investment. Jessica worked like a private detective for 2.5 weeks. I do not know exactly how she did it. She talked about public databases, consumption pattern analysis, tax record verification, but the day she handed me her report, I felt the floor open under my feet. We met at a coffee shop far from my neighborhood, where nobody knew us. Jessica arrived with a manila folder under her arm and a serious expression that froze my blood before she opened her mouth. Mrs. Emily. She began sliding the folder across the wooden table. I do not know how to tell you this gently, so I am going to be direct. She opened the folder. Inside were printouts of documents, screenshots, graphs with numbers and dates. Linda has a bank account that her husband does not know about. It is registered under her maiden name at a branch in Denver. My contact at the bank was able to verify the general movements without violating serious protocols. She showed me a sheet with a table. My hand shook holding it. Every month, for 2 years. She receives a deposit of $800 from an account in the name of Barbara, her mother. It is a scheduled automatic transfer. It never fails. The memo is always the same. Allowance, $800 monthly, from her mother, the same mother who supposedly had her money invested and could not help. But that is not all, Jessica continued, and her tone became more grave. Linda also has income of her own. She works as a freelance graphic designer from home. She has a profile on 3 freelance platforms. Her average monthly income is $1,500, some months up to $1,800. $1,500. Working from home. While she told me they did not have money even to eat, I did the math mentally. $800 from her mother, $1,500 from her work, $2,300 monthly that Linda generated and hid. While I transferred her $1,200 more, money that came from selling the jewelry my dead husband had given me with love. And the expenses? I asked with a hoarse voice. What does she spend all that on? Jessica turned to the next page. It was a breakdown based on her social media posts and some digital receipts she had managed to track. Clothes and accessories, approximately $500 monthly. Restaurants and cafes, $300. Beauty treatments, $250. Skincare products and makeup, $150. The rest goes to a savings account she also has in Denver. I leaned back in the chair. The coffee I had ordered was getting cold in front of me, untouched, while my world got cold too. Mrs. Emily, Jessica said softly, closing the folder. I am sorry to tell you this, but your daughter-in-law never needed your help. She has been using you as her personal emergency fund while she builds her own wealth in secret. I paid the remaining $300. I gave her another $50 tip. I left that coffee shop with the folder under my arm and a lead weight in my stomach. I walked aimlessly for 2 hours. I saw tourists taking photos. I saw young couples eating ice cream. I saw a man selling balloons that floated towards the sky like my burst illusions. When I got home, it was already dark. I sat in the dining room, in the same chair where Linda had sat 14 months ago, to ask me for help with fake tears in her eyes. I opened the folder again and read every page, every number, every piece of evidence of the betrayal. $16,800. That was the price of my naivety, of my kindness used as a doormat, of my grandmother's love turned into a private joke. But while I read, something began to change inside me. The sadness turned into something else, something harder, colder, more dangerous. That night, I made a decision. I would not say anything yet. I would keep transferring the $1,200 as if nothing had happened. I would keep smiling at family dinners. I would keep being the dumb and generous mother-in-law Linda thought I was. But inside, I would begin to assemble my strategy. Because if Ernesto had taught me anything during our 30 years of marriage, it was this. Patience is not weakness. Patience is the most refined form of revenge. And I had all the patience in the world. Leo had been born in March, but I was not there. Let me repeat that so you understand the size of the wound. My first grandson came into the world and I was not there. That early morning of March 17th, I was sleeping deeply when the phone vibrated on the nightstand. It was 2:15 in the morning, in the dark. I fumbled until I found it. A message from Michael in the family group. Linda went into labor. We are on our way to the city hospital. We'll let you know when the baby is born. I sat up in bed suddenly, with my heart galloping. My grandson was about to be born. I got dressed in 5 minutes. The first thing I found, jeans and a mustard blouse. I washed my face, brushed my hair quickly, grabbed my purse and the car keys. Then came another message, this one just for me. From Linda, Emily. No need for you to come now. It can take hours. Better sleep and come in the morning when everything is calmer. We will let you know. I stood there in the middle of the living room, with the keys hanging from my hand, reading that message over and over again. The smiley emoji at the end was like a slap wrapped in gift paper. How could I not go? It was the birth of my grandson, my first grandson, the son of the son I carried in my womb, that I nursed, that I raised. But the message was clear. I was not welcome. I went back to bed, but I could not sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the ticking of the wall clock, imagining what was happening in that hospital without me, at 6 in the morning. Michael sent a photo to the group. Leo had been born at 5:37, 7 pounds, 20 inches, healthy and perfect. In the photo, Linda held him against her chest, exhausted but radiant. Behind her, standing by the bed, were her mother Barbara and her sister Carla, the 3 generations of women, and me, the paternal grandmother, absent like a ghost, nobody invited to the banquet. At 10 in the morning, I showered, put on my best coral dress, the one Robert said made me look 10 years younger, applied makeup carefully, and drove to the city hospital with a bouquet of white roses and a plush giraffe I had bought weeks ago. I arrived at the 3rd floor, room 307. The door was ajar. Before knocking, I heard voices inside, laughter, Barbara's shrill voice. "He is identical to you when you were born, honey. He has the family nose without a doubt." I knocked softly and entered. Michael was sitting in an armchair by the window, with Leo in his arms. Upon seeing me, he smiled with genuine joy. "Mom, look, meet your grandson." I took 2 steps towards them when Barbara physically interposed herself between the baby and me. She was wearing a beige suit that must have cost more than my dress, my shoes and my purse combined. Her perfume, something French and expensive, invaded my nose. "Emily, how good that you came," she said with a smile that did not reach her eagle eyes. "But right now the baby needs to rest. Linda, too. They have been very heavy hours and too many visitors stress the newborn. The doctors are very clear about that." I looked over her shoulder. Carla, Linda's sister, was sitting on the edge of the hospital bed showing something on her phone to a Linda who looked perfectly awake and animated. Neither seemed stressed. Neither seemed to need urgent rest. "I just want to meet him for a moment," I said, trying to advance. "I brought flowers and—" "Come tomorrow," interrupted Barbara, taking me by the elbow firmly and guiding me back towards the door. "Tomorrow everything will be calmer. Today it is better that it is only close family." Close family, as if I were a distant cousin and not the grandmother. Michael stood up, uncomfortable. "Mom, maybe it is better. Linda needs—" "It is okay." I interrupted him before he finished the sentence, before he finished choosing her over me once more. "I will come back tomorrow." Barbara walked me to the hallway. She closed the door behind her and lowered her voice. "Emily, do not take it personal. It is just that Linda and I have a very special relationship, mother and daughter, you know? I was with her in every moment of the pregnancy, in every ultrasound, in every craving, in every fear. It is natural that now she wants to have me close. You will have your time with the baby." She patted me on the shoulder, like someone consoling a dog that did not win a prize in the competition, and returned to the room. I walked down the hospital corridor holding the white roses that nobody would receive and the plush toy nobody would see. I passed by other rooms where complete families crowded around newborns, grandmothers, aunts, cousins, everyone celebrating, everyone included. In the elevator, an older lady smiled at me seeing the flowers. "Just born? Your grandson?" "Yes," I replied, and my voice broke saying it. "How exciting! Congratulations, Grandma." The doors closed and I let the tears run free. The next day, I returned to the hospital at 11 in the morning. This time, Barbara and Carla were no longer there, only Michael and Linda. My son hugged me at the door. "Sorry about yesterday, Mom. Everything was very chaotic." I did not respond. I just nodded. Finally, I could hold Leo. He was so small, so perfect, with his little hands closed in tiny fists and his smell of a newborn baby. I cradled him against my chest and felt an immediate connection, visceral, like roots intertwining underground. "I brought you something," I told Linda, taking out of my purse a small box wrapped in sky blue paper. She unwrapped it without much interest, checking her phone with the other hand. Inside was a silver pocket watch, antique, beautiful, with engravings of vine leaves on the lid. On the back, an inscription, "For Robert, with eternal love, Emily." It was the watch I had given my husband on our 20th anniversary. He carried it every day in his vest pocket until the day he died. It was one of the few material possessions of his that I had kept, an heirloom, a tangible piece of his memory. "It is for Leo," I explained. "It was his grandfather Robert's. I thought when he grew up he could carry it and feel connected to the man he will never meet. It is engraved with his grandfather's name. It is pure silver." From 1985. Linda lifted the watch, examined it with the same expression she would use checking an avocado at the market. "How antique," she said finally. "Thanks, Emily. I will keep it somewhere safe." She said it with that tone that means, "I'm going to shove it in a drawer and forget it exists." Michael, more conscious of the emotional value, approached to see it. Dad used it always. I remember. "That is why I want Leo to have it." I insisted. "It is heritage, history, something to connect him with his roots." Linda had already put the watch in her purse and turned her attention back to the phone. During the following days, while they were in the hospital, I tried to visit them every afternoon. Every time I found some new excuse. "Leo is sleeping. The pediatrician is checking him. Linda needs to rest." Always something. When they were finally discharged, I thought things would improve. But I was wrong. What I did not know then, what I would discover months later casually and heartbreakingly, was that during those 3 days in the hospital, Barbara had been there practically all the time, eating breakfast with them, lunch, dinner, holding Leo, changing his diaper, singing him songs, doing everything a grandmother does, everything I wanted to do, and they did not let me. I found out through a Facebook post by Carla that I saw weeks later, a complete album. The first days of my nephew Leo, 30 photos. Barbara appeared in 28. I did not appear in any. But that was not the worst. The worst came later, when I discovered what had happened with Robert's silver watch, that watch that had survived 30 years of marriage, 4 years of widowhood, and all my contained love. That discovery would come months later, and it would be the drop that overflowed the glass until making it explode into 1,000 sharp pieces impossible to glue back together. May arrived with its afternoons of sudden rain and with a proposal I should have rejected from the first second. But a grandmother's love is a particular type of blindness. And I was blind, deaf, and dumb, from wanting so much to be close to Leo. Linda called a Wednesday afternoon. I was pruning the rose bushes when the phone rang. "Emily, I need to talk to you about something important," she said with that sweet voice that I now recognize as the one she uses when she is going to ask me for something. "Can we see each other today? At your house?" She arrived 2 hours later with Leo in her arms. The baby was 2 months old and already smiled with that toothless smile that melts hearts of stone. I took him from her arms before she crossed the threshold. "You smell like lavender, my love," I whispered, kissing his forehead. Linda sat on the sofa with a dramatic sigh. She wore her hair in a messy bun and a gray sweatshirt that screamed, "I have not slept in weeks." Although I knew from her Instagram that 2 days before she had been at a brunch with friends perfectly made up. "Emily, I am exhausted." She began rubbing her eyes. "Leo does not sleep more than 2 hours straight. The house is a mess. Michael works all day and arrives worn out. I try to keep everything in order, but it is impossible. I do not even have 5 minutes to shower in peace." I nodded, rocking Leo. I had lived it. I knew what it was to raise a baby. I was thinking. She continued, and there came the blow. "What would you think if we moved in with you? Just temporarily. 2 months, 3 maximum. That way we could save the rent money. I would have help with Leo, and you could be with your grandson every day. The most perfect carrot dangling in front of the most naive donkey. Besides," she added, seeing my hesitation, "your house is so big, 3 bedrooms for you alone. We would only occupy 1. and Leo could sleep in what was Michael's room when he was a child. It would be perfect. Reason screamed at me to say no. But the heart, that dumb muscle that beats without permission, saw the opportunity to wake up every morning with my grandson in the house, to see him crawl for the first time, to hear his laughter, to be the grandmother I always wanted to be. 2 months, I said finally, no more. They moved in that weekend. The first days were tolerable. Linda kept her things organized in the master bedroom. Leo slept in Michael's room, surrounded by the soccer posters I never took down and the shelf with his school trophies. I cooked. They ate. Everyone smiled. But the honeymoon lasted exactly 11 days. A Tuesday morning, I went down to breakfast and stopped dead in the entrance of the living room. The framed photographs hanging on the wall, Robert and I on our wedding day, Michael graduating from high school, a family portrait taken on vacation, had disappeared. In their place hung 3 abstract paintings, smudges of gray and gold on white canvas. "What happened to my photos?" I asked with a trembling voice. Linda came out of the kitchen with a cup of coffee in her hand, barefoot, as if it were her house and not mine. "Oh, I put them in your closet. It is just that those frames were very old-fashioned. They did not match anything. These paintings I bought at a decor store downtown. They give the living room a more modern air, don't you think?" No, I did not think, but before I could respond, Leo started crying from his room and Linda ran up the stairs. I stood staring at those impersonal paintings, cold, empty, smudges without history, while my photographs, my life in images, rested in a closet like old junk that gets in the way. 2 days later, upon returning from the market, I found that the embroidered linen curtains of the dining room, the ones my mother had made by hand as a wedding gift, with stitches so small they seemed like the work of patient ants, had been replaced by white plastic blinds. The old curtains let in little light. Linda explained when I complained. Besides, they were a dust trap. These blinds are more practical, more hygienic. Michael agrees. Michael, who was sitting on the armchair with Leo, just nodded without looking up, choosing silence, choosing not to choose me. My mother's curtains ended up in a trash bag by the back door. Next was my vintage ceramic tableware, 20 plates, 20 bowls, 20 hand-painted mugs, a complete set Robert and I bought on our 10th anniversary during a trip we paid for with months of savings. One Saturday, while I was washing breakfast dishes, Linda entered the kitchen carrying a box. "Emily, can I store these dishes? It is just that they do not match the minimalist white set I bought. When we host dinners, I want everything to look coordinated. You understand, right?" And before I answered, she began wrapping my plates in newspaper, one by one, as if they were hers to decide their fate. "Linda, that tableware has 20 years of history. Exactly. 20 years. It is time to renovate." She stored them in a box she put in the attic, along with my mother's imaginary curtains and the ghost photos of my marriage. My life was being packed and archived like expired documents. But the worst was not the material things. The worst was the way my house ceased to be mine. Linda organized dinners with her friends, Monica, Andrea, Fern, 3 women in their 30s who arrived with cheap wine and strident laughter. They installed themselves in my dining room using my new white plates she chose, staining the table with red wine while talking about influencers, facial treatments, and Netflix series when I came down from my room, attracted by the noise. Linda introduced me with a tense smile. "This is Emily, the lady who lives here. Not my mother-in-law, not Leo's grandmother, not the owner of this house, just the lady who lives here," as if I were an extra tenant they generously tolerated. Her friends greeted me with fake courtesy and continued with their conversation, lowering the volume barely, like when you talk in front of a small child who should not find out about adult topics. One night, Monica spilled red wine on the white tablecloth my Aunt Connie gave me when I got married, a red stain big as a fist. Linda just shrugged. Do not worry, Emily. That tablecloth was already old. Tomorrow I will buy a new one. She bought nothing. The tablecloth remained wrinkled inside the laundry basket for weeks, until I washed it myself, knowing the stain would never come out completely. Now there is a pink shadow in the center, like a healed wound. The 2 promised months passed, then 3, then 4, just a little more. Linda said every time I mentioned deadlines, we almost saved enough for the deposit on a new apartment, but her Instagram remained full of shopping, new shoes, very expensive face creams, outings to restaurants. There was no apartment on the horizon. There was only a daughter-in-law who had turned my house into her territory and me into a stranger in my own life. June, July, August. 5 months living under my roof. 5 months of seeing how my home transformed into Linda's Instagram set. Everything white, gray, minimalist, everything cold like her. Michael worked from sun to sun. He left at 7 in the morning, returned at 8 at night, ate dinner quiet, played a while with Leo and went to sleep. On weekends, he slept late, exhausted. He never asked. He never saw. Or maybe he saw and chose not to see. I became the unpaid nanny, changing diapers, preparing bottles, lulling Leo when he cried in the early hours while Linda slept with earplugs, cooking for everyone, cleaning, washing, all while continuing to transfer $1,200 monthly to the account of the woman who slept in my spare bed and treated me like staff. One afternoon in August, my sister Susan came to visit from Phoenix. I had not seen her since Christmas, when she entered the house. She stopped in the living room and looked around with a confused expression. "Emily?" she asked slowly. "What happened to your house?" "Linda redesigned it," I replied with an empty voice. Susan walked through the living room, touching the impersonal paintings, the plastic blinds, the furniture Linda had rearranged without permission. Then she looked at me, with those eyes that have known me since I was born. "This is not redecoration, sister. This is an invasion." That night I cried in my room with the door closed, biting the pillow so they would not hear me. I cried for my lost house, for my trampled dignity, for the sold jewelry, for the transferred money, for the swallowed lies. But I had not hit rock bottom yet. The final blow was still missing, the one that would break me completely before I could put myself back together, harder than before. That blow would arrive in September, when I discovered what had happened to Robert's silver watch. September brought with it Linda's birthday and with it the arrival of Barbara. I knew her by sight and from some brief phone calls, but we had never spent real time together. That was about to change, and with that change would come the total understanding of why my daughter-in-law was the way she was. Barbara arrived on a Friday afternoon in a silver BMW that she parked in front of my house like someone planting a flag in conquered territory. She was 62 years old but looked 50. Well-done plastic surgery, ash blonde hair perfectly styled, brand name clothes that whispered money in every seam. She smelled of Chanel perfume and superiority. I went out to receive her with a polite smile. She extended her hand instead of giving me a hug, a firm and cold handshake like her gaze. "Emily, how nice to finally see your home." The way she said your home sounded more like an inspection than a compliment. Linda ran down the stairs with Leo in her arms. "Mom!" The hug between them was long, effusive, full of that complicity that hurts when you are the excluded one. Barbara kissed her forehead, her cheeks. She fixed her hair with a tenderness I never saw her show towards anyone else. "Let me see my prince," Barbara said, taking Leo. The baby, who was already 6 months old, looked at her with curiosity. "Identical to you when you were a baby, honey. Those eyes are pure Davis, without a doubt. No mention that he could also look like Michael, or me, or the genes of this half of the family that apparently did not count." That night, I prepared a special dinner to celebrate Linda's birthday, beef Wellington. The most laborious dish I knew. I spent 5 hours preparing the puff pastry, sealing the filet mignon, making the mushroom duxelles with a touch of thyme and brandy. The Wellington turned out perfect, golden, crispy, a masterpiece, like the love I put into each step, thinking that maybe, just maybe, the effort would be recognized. We sat at the table. Barbara observed her plate with a critical expression, lifting a fork like someone examining evidence in a trial. "Beef Wellington," she said slowly. "How traditional." The way she pronounced traditional sounded like an insult disguised as an observation. She tasted a bite, chewed slowly, put down the fork. "In my house, when I prepare beef Wellington, I use Wagyu beef imported from Japan," she said, wiping the corner of her lips with the napkin. "And instead of regular mushrooms, I use French truffles. The flavor is more refined. Also, I add a touch of foie gras inside the pastry. It gives it depth. Foie gras. In a Wellington, like putting caviar on a hot dog. These are fine," she continued with a smile that was pure, bottled poison. "For being homemade. They are quite edible." Michael ate in silence, with his head down like a soldier who prefers not to be on the battlefield. Linda smiled, enjoying the show of seeing her mother tear apart my effort. Barbara barely touched the dinner. Instead, she talked and talked and talked. "Linda, I told you I finally sold the property in Aspen, $400,000. A steal considering the location. Strategic pause for us to process the number. Your father, may he rest in peace, always had an eye for investments. He left me very well positioned. How lucky," I said, trying to sound genuine. Her hawk eyes locked on me. "It is not luck, Emily. It is financial intelligence. My husband and I built a solid wealth because we knew how to handle money. We did not spend on frivolities. We invested strategically. Every word was a stone thrown. Every phrase, an implicit comparison between her life of planned abundance and my existence of working middle class. That is why I taught Linda since she was little." She continued, pouring more wine into her glass. "That a smart woman never depends on anyone. A smart woman builds her own empire. And above all," she looked directly at me, "a smart woman never spends her own money if she can avoid it." Linda let out a complicit giggle. Michael kept eating as if he heard nothing, cowered in his mutism. "That is the best lesson I gave her," insisted Barbara, raising her glass like in a toast. "Find a way for others to pay your bills while you build your personal fortune. That is how smart women survive." And then I understood everything with brutal clarity. It was not a coincidence. It was not an accident. Linda had used me exactly as her mother taught her. I was not family. I was an exploitable resource, a source of temporary financing while she accumulated her own money in secret. Barbara continued her monologue during dessert, a store-bought cake because I no longer had the energy to bake, bragging about her investments, her properties, her trips. "Last year I spent 3 weeks in Europe," she said, showing photos on her latest model phone. "Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Linda, when Leo is bigger, the 3 of us will go. You, me, and the baby. A trip of Davis generations. 3 generations. That did not include me nor Michael, as if he had only been the sperm donor necessary to create the heir to her dynasty." After dinner, Linda and Barbara went to the living room with the baby. I heard them from the kitchen while washing the dishes they had barely touched. "You have to be firmer, honey," Barbara said in a low voice, but not so low that I did not hear. "This house is perfect for you. Do not pay rent while you can live here for free. Extend the stay as much as possible. But Emily is already starting to ask when we are leaving. Handle her, use the baby. No grandmother is going to kick out her grandson. And if she gets difficult, cry a little. Tell her Michael is stressed with work, that Leo needs stability. Whatever. But do not move until it really suits you." I dropped a plate in the sink. It broke into 3 clean pieces. None of them came to see what had happened. Barbara stayed the whole weekend. She slept in my living room, on the sofa, because Linda offered her my sofa without consulting me. And for 2 days, I witnessed the mother-daughter dynamic that explained everything. Saturday morning, the two went shopping. They returned loaded with bags: Nordstrom, Sephora, Macy's. Linda debuted a camel coat that must have cost at least $300. Birthday gift from Mom. She explained modeling it in front of the hallway mirror. Meanwhile, I kept transferring $1,200 monthly for her supposed rent emergency on Sunday. Before leaving, Barbara looked for me in the kitchen. I was preparing coffee, adding the cinnamon that fills the house with that smell of true home. "Emily," she said, leaning on the counter, "I want to thank you for receiving my daughter in your house." I waited for the but. There is always a but. "But I want you to understand something." She got closer, lowering her voice. "Linda is like me, strong, intelligent, with vision for the future. She is not one of those women who settle for crumbs. She is not one of those who sacrifice themselves until they have nothing left." She looked me up and down, evaluating my old jeans, my faded blouse, my hands rough from washing so many dishes. "Do not be too generous, Emily. Generosity without limits becomes weakness, and weak women end up alone, without money and without respect." I smiled at her, a smile as fake as her salon blonde. "Thanks for the advice, Barbara. It is just an observation between women," she said, patting my shoulder. "From one who has success to one who tries her best." She left in her silver BMW, leaving a void that smelled of expensive perfume and distilled poison. That night, lying in my bed, I looked at the ceiling and finally accepted the complete truth. Linda was not just using me. She had been trained to do it. Raised with an instruction manual that said, "Take everything you can from others while you protect yours. Use emotions as tools. Do not feel guilt. Survivors cannot afford that luxury." And Barbara was the teacher who had taught her every lesson. But if they were two, I still had someone on my side, my sister Susan, and my own capacity to learn. Because if I was discovering anything in this process, it was that patience was not my weakness. It was my weapon. October arrived with gray skies, and with the news Linda announced during breakfast. Leo's birthday would be something special, something she would organize with all the love in the world for his first year of life. "I want it to be memorable," she said, spreading jam on her toast. "Leo deserves a worthy celebration." What she did not say was, "And you are going to pay for it." During the next 2 weeks, Linda became a professional event planner. She spent hours on the computer comparing decoration packages, quoting banquets, looking for the perfect clown or magician, all under the pretext of maternal love, but with the wastefulness of someone spending someone else's money. A Tuesday night, she found me in the living room watching an old Western movie. "Emily, I need to talk to you." She sat next to me with a remorseful expression, the one I already recognized as a preamble to a request. "I have been looking at options for Leo's party, and I found the perfect venue. It is a garden hall downtown. It has waiters included, decorated tables and chairs. It is ideal." "I thought you would have the party here at the house," I said. "The garden is big. We can—" "No, Emily, the garden here is nice. But we need something more professional, with adequate bathrooms for so many guests, kitchen equipped for catering, space for inflatables. How many guests? About 50. 50 people, for a baby who would remember nothing of his first birthday. The problem is that the hall costs $800, she continued, and there was the true motive of the conversation. "I know it is a lot, but it is only once, his first year. Please, Emily, do it for your grandson. Do it for my grandson." The magic phrase Linda used as a master key to open my wallet. I already reserved the hall with my card. She lied, because later I would discover she did not even have anything reserved. "I just need you to lend me those $800 to cover the total payment." I will pay you back next month. I swear, pay me back. As if she had ever paid back the $16,800 I had already given her in 14 months. But I nodded. Because I was sticking to my strategy. I kept accumulating evidence. I kept waiting for the perfect moment. I took the money from the little I had left in savings and gave it to her in cash. Linda counted it in front of me, something she had never done before, as if suddenly she mistrusted my ability to count to 800. She put it in her purse and gave me a quick hug. "You are the best mother-in-law in the world, Emily, the best fool," she meant. The days prior to the party were a whirlwind of deliveries. Amazon packages arrived almost daily, golden garlands, centerpieces, metallic balloons with the number 1, disposable plates and cups with safari designs, everything coordinated in beige, gold and olive green tones, everything expensive, everything unnecessary. "Where is the money coming from for all this?" I asked her one afternoon, seeing the mountain of boxes in the living room, "From my savings." She responded without looking up from her phone. "I have been saving for this day." Savings. The woman who supposedly did not have money even to pay her rent had savings for children's party decoration. The equation did not add up, but she still believed I was too stupid to add 2 plus 2. The day of the party. Saturday, October 17th. Dawned sunny. I got up at 6 in the morning, although the party started at 4 in the afternoon. Nerves did not let me sleep, or maybe it was the anxiety of knowing I was being used once again. At 9, the decoration company arrived. They transformed my garden, the garden where Robert and I planted roses, where Michael learned to ride a bike, into a magazine safari. They installed long tables covered with beige linen tablecloths, centerpieces with succulent plants and plush giraffes, a giant arch of golden balloons at the entrance, a candy table decorated as if it were a millionaire's wedding. "I thought you had reserved the hall downtown," I asked Linda while supervising the installation. "Oh yes, it is just that in the end I decided it was better here, more intimate. And that way we saved that money. Save." She used that word as if it had real meaning, as if saving was something she knew. "So the $800 I lent you, I used them to hire the professional decoration and the catering." She interrupted, pointing to the workers carrying tables. "It comes out to more or less the same." Do not worry. I was not worried. Nothing worried me anymore. I just observed and archived every lie in the mental folder that one day I would open in front of everyone. At 2 in the afternoon, the catering arrived. Trays of sushi, teriyaki chicken skewers, gourmet mini burgers, imported cheese board, exotic salads with names I could not pronounce, food that easily cost $50 a head, multiplied by 50 guests, $2,500 in food, minimum. "From where?" I started asking. "Mom helped with part of it," answered Linda, adjusting the ivory dress she debuted for the occasion. She did not want her grandson to have a cheap party. Barbara helped. The same Barbara who supposedly had her money invested and could not help with the rent, but yes, she could pay for imported sushi for a 1-year-old baby's birthday party. The inconsistencies piled up like dirty dishes, but nobody else seemed to see them. The guests started arriving at 4. Linda's family arrived first. Barbara with a navy blue cocktail dress that screamed, "I am the important grandmother." Carla with her husband and her 2 children. Aunts, cousins, Linda's friends I had never seen. My family was a fraction. My sister Susan, who came from Phoenix. My cousin George with his wife. 2 neighbors who truly appreciated me. 42 people in total. Not 50, but enough to fill the garden with noise and laughter. I hired a professional photographer. Linda's decision, my expense. A young guy with an expensive camera taking photos from all possible angles. Click, click, click. Capturing every moment for posterity. Leo, dressed in a beige romper that matched the decor, seemed overwhelmed by so many people. He cried and calmed down, smiled and frowned again. He was a 1-year-old baby doing what 1-year-old babies do, existing, without understanding the circus mounted around him during the party. I moved like a ghost in my own house. I greeted guests, smiled for photos, held Leo when they allowed me. But I was human decoration, one more piece of furniture in the scenario carefully assembled by Linda, the main table, where Linda, Michael, Leo, Barbara, and Carla sat. Looked like an official family portrait. That was where the photographer took most of the photos. That was where everyone gathered for the cake cutting. I was at the back table, next to Susan and my neighbors, when we sang Happy Birthday. I approached to be in the photo of the cake moment. I placed myself right behind Michael, with my hands on his shoulders, smiling. The photographer shot. Flash. 1 photo, 2, 3, ready, he said, and everyone dispersed. The party continued until 8 at night. Leo was already sleeping in his stroller while the adults kept eating, drinking, taking photos. Barbara organized games, raffles, activities. She was the hostess of the party in my house, when finally everyone left. The garden looked like a natural disaster zone. Trampled paper plates, dirty napkins, deflated balloons. The decoration company would return the next day to pick up the tables and chairs. Linda went up to put Leo to bed, exhausted but happy. Michael helped me pick up the worst of the mess. "Thanks for everything, Mom," he said, piling plates into a trash bag. I know it was not easy. Easy. Nothing in the last 14 months had been easy, but I remained invisible to him. A week later, Linda sent me a message. "The photos are ready." The photographer uploaded everything to a digital folder. There are 347 photos. They turned out beautiful. I opened the folder that night, sitting on my bed with the phone in my hand and a sensation of anticipation I could not explain. I swiped photo by photo. Leo with Linda, Leo with Michael, Leo with Barbara, Leo with Carla, Leo alone, Leo with the cake, Leo with balloons, Leo asleep. Linda's family appeared everywhere. Barbara in 27 photos, Carla in 18, Linda's friends in 11. I appeared in 3. 3 photos out of 347, one where I am in the background, blurry, while Barbara holds Leo, another where I come out in profile, cut in half, like a photographic accident, and a third where I am alone, next to the candy table, like a random guest the photographer captured by mistake. The cake photo, that one where I was behind Michael with my hands on his shoulders, did not exist. It was not in the folder. It had been deleted, or never considered worthy of being kept. I looked for more. No photo of me holding Leo, although I held him at least 10 times. No photo of me with Michael. No photo where I was a protagonist or even co-protagonist. I had been erased from the visual memory of my grandson's first birthday. I closed the folder, turned off the phone. I sat in the darkness of my room, with my hands trembling and something inside me breaking in a place so deep that the pain took several minutes to reach the surface. I cried that night. I cried for the 3 photos where I appear like a ghost. I cried for the $800 I gave to pay for a party that erased me. I cried for the $16,800 before. I cried for my invaded house, my discarded curtains, my hidden photographs, my life redecorated without permission. But among the tears, something else began to grow. Something hard like a river stone polished by years of current. The folder with Jessica's report was still kept in the second drawer of my dresser. The evidence of the secret accounts, of the hidden income, of the lies woven over 14 months. It was not yet the moment to use it, but every humiliation brought me closer to that moment. And when it arrived, I would not tremble. This time, it would be me taking the photo, and nobody would be erased from it. November arrived with cold air and with a restlessness that did not let me sleep. 3 weeks had passed since Leo's birthday. 3 weeks since I discovered I had been erased from the photographs as if I had never existed on that day. But what would come next would be worse, much worse. A Wednesday afternoon, while Linda had gone out with Leo to the pediatrician, I decided to do something I had been postponing for months. Organize my bedroom closet. Robert always said I accumulated too much, that I kept things just in case until filling every available corner. I wanted to find a wool shawl that my sister Susan had knitted for me years ago. With the cold coming, I would need it. I knew it was somewhere in the closet, buried among boxes of memories. I took out box after box, old photographs, love letters Robert wrote me when we were dating, the dress I wore at Michael's baptism, the baby blanket I wrapped him in his first night at home. And then I reached the red velvet box, the box where I kept the little I had left of sentimental value. There was the pearl rosary that belonged to my grandmother. There were the silver cufflinks my father used at his wedding. There was the engagement ring Robert gave me under a jacaranda tree in 1978. And there should be the silver pocket watch. I opened the box. My hands were trembling even before confirming what I already knew in the bottom of my soul. The watch was not there. I emptied the box on the bed, checked every object, checked again, stuck my hand to the bottom looking for a secret compartment that did not exist. Nothing. Robert's silver watch, the one I gifted him on our 20th anniversary, the one he carried in his pocket every day until he died, the one I gave to Linda for Leo with tears in my eyes, had disappeared. I searched the whole room, under the bed, inside the rest of the boxes, among the folded clothes, in the dresser drawers. Nothing, nothing, nothing. I went down the stairs with my legs shaking. Michael was in the living room watching the news. "Where is Linda?" I asked, and my voice sounded strange even to me. "She is still at the pediatrician with Leo. Is something wrong? I need to ask her something important." I waited 2 hours watching the wall clock, the one that still worked, the one that had not been sold, feeling how every minute stretched my anxiety like old gum. Linda returned at 6:30. She entered with Leo asleep in her arms, humming a song. "Linda," I said before she reached the stairs, "I need to talk to you." "Now? I have to put Leo to bed. Now." Something in my tone stopped her. She went up fast, left Leo in his crib, and came down with a cautious expression. Michael was still in the living room. This would be in front of him, too. Better that way. "Robert's silver watch," I said without preamble. "The one I gave you for Leo. Where is it?" Linda blinked. Once. Twice. Her brain worked looking for the right answer. The most convenient lie. "Oh, that watch," she said, finally shrugging. "It is stored somewhere safe." "Why? In what safe place?" "I do not know, Emily. In some box." "Why so much drama over a watch?" "Because I want to see it." "Now?" "Now." Linda sighed as if I were a capricious child asking for something absurd. "I do not know exactly where it is. I have moved many things since we arrived. It could be in the room, in one of the suitcases, in..." "Linda." My voice came out harder than I intended. "That watch is a family heirloom. It has my dead husband's name engraved. It is pure silver from 1985. It is not something that gets lost among things." Michael looked up from the TV, finally paying attention. "What is going on with a watch?" he asked. "Your father's watch." I told him without taking my eyes off Linda. "The one I gave your wife for our son. It has disappeared." "It has not disappeared," protested Linda. "It is just stored and I do not remember where. Tomorrow I will look for it calmly. Look for it now. Emily, I am tired. The pediatrician. The traffic." Leo was crying the whole way. "Look for it now." Michael stood up. "Mom, if Linda says it is stored, let her look for it." The scream surprised even me. I had not raised my voice like that in years. Linda took a step back, with her eyes wide open. She went up the stairs. I followed her. Michael followed both of us, confused, uncomfortable, trapped. Linda opened drawers at random, moved things without really searching. It was pure theater. After 10 minutes of pantomime, she sat on the bed with a defeated expression, and then, with a small voice, she said, "Okay, it is not here." The silence that followed was dense like November fog. "Where is it?" I asked. Linda bit her lower lip, looked at Michael seeking support that would not come, looked at the floor, looked at her hands. "We sold it," she whispered finally. Michael froze. "What? We pawned it, like 3 months ago. We needed money urgently for what?" I interrupted her. My voice was pure ice. "For what did you need money urgently if I transferred you $1,200 monthly? For what if your mother sends you $800 extra? For what if you work from home earning $1,500 more? For what, Linda?" Her eyes opened like saucers. Pure panic. "What are you talking about?" Michael asked. "What money from her mother? What work from home?" Linda stood up. "Emily, I do not know what—" Leo needed diapers. She continued talking faster, improvising desperately, and special formula milk that the pediatrician prescribed. It was very expensive. We had nowhere else to get it, and that watch was there unused, gathering dust. I thought, "How much did they give you?" I asked. "What? How much money did they give you for my dead husband's silver watch?" She lowered her gaze. $250 for a 40-year-old heirloom, for the last physical piece of Robert I had left, for the object that should pass from generation to generation as a testimony of love and family continuity. $250 that she probably used on another Instagram dress or another brunch with her friends. Michael did not know, she added quickly. It was my decision. I went alone to the pawn shop. I told him the watch had been lost in the move. Michael looked at me, then looked at her. His face went from shock to incomprehension, and then to something I had never seen in him. Rage. "You sold my father's watch?" he asked with a trembling voice. "The one my mom gave you for our son? I was going to get it back. Defended Linda. I have 30 days to get it back, paying the interest. But then, with Leo's party and everything..." Time passed. "When did you pawn it?" asked Michael. "In July." July, 4 months ago. The deadline to recover it had expired 3 months ago. The watch was no longer recoverable. They had already sold it to a third party or melted it to sell the silver by weight. "Which pawn shop?" I asked. "I do not remember the name." "Linda. I really do not remember. There are many downtown. It was one around there. She was lying. She knew exactly which one it was. But she did not want to tell me because she knew I would go verify that indeed the deadline had passed, that the watch was lost forever. I sat on the edge of the bed. My legs no longer held me. I felt as if someone had reached inside my chest and squeezed my heart like a wet rag. "Emily, I am sorry," said Linda, and her voice sounded genuinely scared now. "I really am sorry. I thought it was a mistake. I did not think that—" "Get out of my room," I said in a low voice. "Emily, get out of my room." She ran out. Michael stayed a moment longer, standing in the door, looking at me with eyes that finally seemed to see. "Mom, you too. Leave me alone." He left, closed the door behind him. I sat there while it got dark outside. I heard muffled voices downstairs, Michael and Linda arguing, her crying, him raising his voice for the first time in months, Leo waking up and crying too, the sonic chaos of a family breaking apart. I did not cry. I had no tears left for this. Instead, I went down the stairs an hour later. I went to the kitchen. I took out of the drawer next to the refrigerator the manila folder Jessica had given me months ago, the one containing all the evidence of Linda's financial lies. I put it on the dining table and waited. Michael came down first, saw the folder, looked at me with a question in his eyes. "Sit down," I said. "There are things you need to know." Linda came down later, with red and swollen eyes. When she saw the folder on the table, I saw her go pale. "What is that?" she asked with a trembling voice. "The truth," I responded. "All the truth you have been hiding for 14 months. I opened the folder and began to speak. I told them everything. The $1,200 monthly I had been transferring, the secret pact Linda asked me for to protect Michael's pride, the sold jewelry, the $16,800 total invested, and then I showed them Jessica's report, the secret bank accounts, the $800 monthly Barbara deposited, the $1,500 she earned with freelance graphic design, all the money Linda generated and hid while I paid for her supposed emergency. Michael read every page with the expression of someone waking up from deep anesthesia, confused, disoriented, betrayed. "Is this true?" he asked me with a broken voice. "Every number, every date, every transfer." He looked at Linda. "Is it true?" She was crying now uncontrollably, snot and tears running down her face, without the makeup that usually made her look perfect. I was going to pay it all back," she stammered. "It was only temporary. I thought—" "You never needed the money," said Michael slowly, as if processing the words while saying them. "You never needed it. I needed to save for us, for Leo, for our future. Using my mother's money, selling the jewelry my father gave her, pawning his watch." She did not answer. There was no answer that could justify the unjustifiable. Michael stood up, walked to the window, stood there looking at the night for minutes that felt like hours. When he spoke again, his voice was different, colder, harder, more adult. "We are leaving tomorrow." Linda looked up, alarmed. "What? You pack your things. I pack mine. We look for an apartment this same week. We are not staying here another day. Michael, please." "No." He cut her off. "We have no right. We never had the right. My mother opened her house to us and you used her. You squeezed her. You took everything you could while accumulating your own money. I just wanted security. At her expense?" Michael pointed at me. "At the expense of pawning my father's memories?" Silence fell heavy. "Tomorrow," repeated Michael. "We leave tomorrow." And he went up the stairs, leaving Linda and me alone in the dining room. She looked at me with pleading eyes. "Emily, please, talk to him. Tell him I apologized. Tell him I will fix it." "How?" I asked simply. "How are you going to fix 14 months of lies? How are you going to return a watch that no longer exists? How are you going to erase me from the photos where you erased me? I did not erase you from any photo." Photos of Leo's birthday. I appear in three blurry photos in the background, as if I were one more piece of decoration furniture. She stayed silent. "Tomorrow you leave." I told her standing up. "And before leaving, you are going to sign something." "What?" "A promissory note for the $16,800 I lent you. My sister Susan is a lawyer. She will draft the document. You will sign it in front of a witness, and you will pay me that debt. I do not know when. I do not know how. But you will pay it. I do not have that money. Yes, you do. In your secret account in Denver. And if not, your mother, who taught you so well to use people, will help you, or you will work double, or you will sell your brand name clothes. I do not care how, but you will pay." I went up to my room, closed the door, and finally, after everything, I cried. But these tears were different. They were not of sadness, they were of liberation, because the next day I would recover my house, my space, my dignity, and that, even if it hurt, was worth more than any silver watch. They left the next day just as Michael promised, but not to their own apartment. That would come later, but temporarily to Barbara's house in Denver while they looked for something in the city. My house was empty, silent, mine again. I spent 3 days cleaning every corner Linda had touched. I took my photographs down from the closet and hung them again in the living room. I took the ceramic tableware out of the attic and washed it piece by piece, caressing every hand-painted design. I removed the plastic blinds with the help of my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, and bought new linen curtains, not identical to my mother's, but in the same spirit. I recovered my house, but the void of Leo hurt in a place no decoration could fill. Michael called me every 2 days, brief conversations, uncomfortable, full of long pauses. "How are you, Mom?" "Fine." "And you?" "We are looking for an apartment. There is one that may be..." "That is good. Leo asks for you." That broke me. A 1-year-old baby does not ask for anyone with words, but I understood the message. My grandson missed me, and I missed him, with a physical pain in the center of the chest. "Tell him Grandma loves him." More silence. "Linda wants to apologize." "She already apologized." "Really, Mom? She is different." My mom spoke hard to her. She told her things. I think she finally understood. Barbara spoke hard to her. How ironic. The woman who taught her to use people now reclaimed her for using people. "The promissory note," I said. "Did she sign it?" "Yes." "Susan came, drafted it. Linda signed it. You have your notarized copy." "Good." "Is that all you were going to say?" "Good? What else do you want me to say, Michael?" He sighed on the other end of the line. "I do not know, Mom. I do not know anything anymore." We hung up. Susan came to visit me 2 weeks later. She arrived with a bottle of tequila and that look of an older sister who knows exactly what you need before you say it. "You have to organize a dinner," she said, pouring 2 shots at the kitchen table. "A dinner? A family dinner. Everyone present. Michael, Linda, Barbara if she wants to come, you, me, Mr. Thompson, everyone at the same table. And there publicly you are going to put the cards on the table. I already put the cards on the table." "No," corrected Susan. "You showed the cards to Michael in private. But Barbara has not had to face the music. Linda has not had to sit in front of witnesses and publicly acknowledge what she did. You need that, Emily. You need the closure. And they need the lesson." I took the shot of tequila. It burned going down the throat. But it was a burning that felt clean. And what do I gain with that? Public dignity. Let it be clear to everyone, especially to Barbara, that you are not the fool they thought you were, that you accounted for every dollar, that you have evidence, that they signed a legal document, that there are consequences. She drank her own shot. Besides, you need to see Barbara's face when she finds out that her perfect daughter, raised with her lessons of smart woman, indebted herself legally to the mother-in-law she despised. That tore the first genuine smile from me in weeks. Okay. I organized the dinner. I organized it for the first Saturday of December. I called Michael. "I want to invite you to dinner. Here at the house, you, Linda, and Leo. Susan is also coming with Mr. Thompson. It is important to me. Will you come?" There was a long pause. I heard voices in the background. Linda asking something. Michael covering the microphone with his hand. "We will come," he said finally. "Can I invite Barbara too? She is staying with us and..." Perfect. Even better. Of course. Let her come. I spent 2 days preparing the menu. I decided to make the pot roast, the same one I prepared that dinner where everything began to explode. But this time I would make it perfect. 17 ingredients, 3 hours of patience. Every step loaded with intention. Saturday arrived. I set the table with my recovered ceramic tableware. I used the white tablecloth with the wine stain that never came out completely. I let it be seen, a silent testimony. I lit cinnamon-scented candles. I hung in the dining room, visible from the table. A new photograph I had framed, Robert and I, on our 20th anniversary. The day I gave him the silver watch, the photo where he holds it against his vest, smiling. Susan and Mr. Thompson arrived first at 6. He brought a bottle of red wine. She brought the manila folder, my evidence folder, and 2 additional copies of the signed promissory note. "Ready?" asked Susan. "Ready, Michael. Linda. Leo and Barbara arrived at 6:30. Linda wore a simple gray dress, without ostentatious makeup, with her hair tied in a simple ponytail. She looked like an opaque version of herself. Barbara, on the other hand, arrived with her full armor, cream suit, heels, perfect hair, expensive perfume. Leo ran towards me. Well, rather crawled fast, as soon as he saw me. I lifted him in my arms and felt something inside me put itself back together. My grandson smelled of baby powder and home. "Hello, my love. How I missed you." We sat at the table, me at the head, Susan to my right, Mr. Thompson to my left, Michael in front of me, with Linda next to him, Barbara at the other end, like a dethroned queen in enemy territory, Leo in his high chair between Michael and Linda. I served the roast. The silence was so dense that the sound of ladles against ceramic resonated like bells. "It looks delicious," said Michael, attempting to lighten the mood. "Thanks, son." Barbara tasted a bite. She made no comments, neither good nor bad. She just ate in silence, and that silence was victory enough. We ate for 15 minutes without speaking beyond basic courtesies. Pass the salt? More bread? The kind of conversation strangers forced to share a table maintain. Then Linda broke the silence. "Emily," she said with a small voice, "I want you to know that I really regret it. Everything. The money, the watch, the way I treated you. I have no excuse. I was selfish and manipulative, and you did not deserve any of that." I nodded. "Thanks for saying it. I am going to pay you. Everything. I already started working more hours. I am taking extra design projects. I do not know how long it will take me, but I will pay you down to the last dollar. I know. You signed a legal document that obligates you." Barbara looked up from the plate. "Legal document?" Susan smiled. It was a lawyer smile that smells blood in the water. A promissory note certified by a notary for $16,800 plus interest. Your daughter indebted herself to Emily for 14 months while hiding her own income. Emily has the legal right to sue if payment is not fulfilled. Barbara's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. $16,800? Plus the $800 extra for the hospital, I added, and the $800 for the hall she never rented but used for party decoration. $18,400 in total. To be exact. Barbara looked at her daughter. "Linda? Mom, I will explain later." "No," I interrupted her. "Explain to her now. Here, in front of everyone. Because if we are going to clear the air, let it be cleared completely, and then," with a calm that surprised even myself, I began to narrate the complete story. From the day Linda arrived crying, asking for help, the secret pact to protect Michael's pride, the monthly transfers, the sold jewelry, the hidden bank accounts, the freelance income, the $800 monthly from Barbara, who supposedly could not help. Barbara went pale with every detail. "You were sending her money?" she asked Linda. "It was my inheritance from Dad. I had the right. And why did you allow Emily to pay your rent if you had your own income?" Linda lowered her gaze, did not answer. "Because her mother taught her," I said with a soft but sharp voice, "that a smart woman does not spend her own money if she can make others pay for her. Isn't that right, Barbara? Wasn't that exactly what you told her here, at this same table, a few months ago?" Barbara opened her mouth, closed it, for the first time since I knew her. She had no answer. "You taught her to use people, to see relationships as transactions, to prioritize her own benefit over basic decency. And she listened to you. She was an excellent student. Emily, Yes, you did. I was there. I heard you say that smart women find a way for others to pay their bills. I saw you brag about your properties and your money while your daughter bled me dry in secret. I saw you treat me as inferior, as the poor and simple mother-in-law who understood nothing." I stood up, went to the sideboard and took out the manila folder. I put it on the table among the roast plates. This is the complete report of your daughter's finances, bank accounts, income, expenses, everything documented, everything verified. Susan has a copy. Mr. Thompson has a copy. I have the original, and Linda signed a promissory note acknowledging the debt. I opened the folder and took out the certified promissory note. I slid it towards Barbara. Read it. She read it. Her eyes scanned every line, every number, every clause. When she finished, she looked at Linda with an expression that was a mixture of disappointment and, if I am not mistaken, shame. "You signed this?" Linda nodded with tears running down her cheeks. "Then you pay it," said Barbara with a hard voice. "Every dollar. I am not going to help you with this. You did it alone. You fix it alone. Mom." "No." Barbara left the napkin on the table. "They raised you to be smart, not to be a thief. There is a difference." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Leo, who had been babbling, stayed quiet as if understanding the gravity of the moment. Michael finally spoke. His voice trembled. "Mom, I want you to know that I looked for the watch. I went to 6 pawn shops downtown. None had it on record. Linda did not remember which one it was, and..." His voice broke. "I am sorry. I am sorry for not seeing any of this. I am sorry for being blind. I am sorry for not defending you when I should have. I know, son. Do you forgive me?" I looked at him. I saw the 8-year-old boy falling off the bike, the teenager studying late, the man I built with Robert to be good, but who at some point forgot to really look. "I forgive you, but I need you to understand something." I leaned forward. "I gave you life. I raised you. I sacrificed dreams, vacations, personal tastes so you had everything you needed. And I would do it again because that is a mother's love. But that love does not make me easy prey. It does not make me an emotional ATM. I understand." "Do you really?" I looked at Linda. "Because it is not just about the money. It is about my mother's curtains you threw in the trash, the photographs of my marriage you hid in the closet, the tableware you packed without asking, my dead husband's watch you sold for $250. It is about the 347 photos of Leo's birthday where I appear in 3. Linda sobbed openly now. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I am sorry too," I said. "I am sorry for confusing your need with my kindness. I am sorry for allowing my grandmother love to blind me so much. I am sorry for not setting boundaries from the beginning." I sat down, took my glass of wine, the first I tasted all night, and drank. But no more. I continued. "From now on there are rules. You come visit me when I invite you. I see Leo here, in my house. As frequently as we agree. You pay me what you owe according to the note. And above all," I looked at Linda directly, "you treat me with the respect I deserve, not because I am a mother-in-law, not because I am a grandmother, but because I am a human being who deserves dignity." "Yes," whispered Linda. "Yes to everything." Barbara stood up. "I think it is time to leave." "There is still dessert," said Susan with an innocent smile. "Emily made flan. I am not hungry." Barbara took her purse. "Linda, Michael, we are going." "Stay," I said. "Finish dinner. This is not an expulsion. It is a conversation we needed to have." Barbara hesitated. Finally, she sat down again. Defeated. I served the flan. We ate in a lighter silence now, like after a storm when the air feels clean but still damp. Leo fell asleep in Michael's arms. I watched him sleep and felt pure love, without stain, without conditions. That child had no fault in anything. That child deserved to grow up surrounded by love, not lies. When we finished, while I was collecting the plates, Linda approached me in the kitchen. "Emily, do you think one day you can truly forgive me? Not just say it, but feel it." I looked at her. I saw a 32-year-old woman who had been raised with twisted values, but who, maybe, just maybe, could learn new values? I do not know, I said honestly, but we can try. One day at a time, one visit at a time, one payment at a time. She nodded. It is more than I deserve. Yes, it is. They left around 10. Barbara did not say goodbye to me. She just walked out the door with her chin up, defeated but proud to the end. Michael hugged me long at the door. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. Always. Susan and Mr. Thompson stayed helping me clean when everything was put away. We sat in the living room with what was left of the wine. How do you feel? Asked Susan. Tired, but complete. You did good. I did what was necessary that night, before sleeping. I stared at the framed photograph of Robert with his watch. I spoke to him as I did sometimes when loneliness weighed too much. I lost your watch, my love. I'm so sorry. But I recovered something I had lost a long time ago. My voice, my space, my dignity. I hope that, from where you are proud of me. Silence did not answer. But in that silence, I felt peace. The following months were of slow reconstruction, like fractured bones healing millimeter by millimeter. Michael and Linda finally found an apartment in January. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, in a modest neighborhood near the suburbs. Nothing fancy, nothing Instagrammable, but it was theirs. Paid with the work of both. The first payment of the note arrived in February. $500 transferred to my account with the memo debt payment Linda Davis. Susan called me to confirm she had received it. It is a start, she said. It is more than I expected so soon, I admitted. March brought Leo's first official visit to my house. Under the new rules, Michael called me on Monday. Mom, can we go on Saturday? Leo misses you. We do too, of course. Come for lunch. I will make meatballs. They arrived at 1 in the afternoon. Linda brought a potted rose bush. For the garden, she said shyly. I know it does not compensate for anything, but I saw the ones there looked a little sad. I thought a new one. I took the pot. The plant had vibrant fuchsia flowers, full of life. Thank you. I will plant it next to the ones Robert planted. Something in her expression softened. It was the first gift she gave me without second intentions, without calculation behind it. Just a gesture. We ate in the garden. Leo crawled on the grass, chasing a yellow butterfly. He was 16 months old now and already said some words. Mom, Dad, water. Every word was a small miracle. Did he say Grandma yet? I asked. Almost, answered Michael, smiling. It comes out more like Nana, but he is trying. Leo approached me crawling. He grabbed my legs to stand up. He looked at me with those dark eyes that were half Michael, half Linda, and completely his. Nana, he said, pointing at me. My eyes filled with tears. Yes, my love. Nana, I am your grandma. In April came the second payment, another $500, in May, the 3rd. Linda was complying, slow, but constant. One afternoon in June, Michael came alone, without Linda, without Leo. He knocked on the door with a serious expression. Is something wrong? I asked, letting him in. I need to show you something. He took out his phone, showed me a WhatsApp conversation between him and someone named Antique Buyers SL. I read the messages with my heart accelerating. Michael, hello, I am looking for a silver pocket watch, antique, from 1985 approximately, with engraving on the back. For Robert, with eternal love. Emily, have you seen something like that? Antique Buyers. Let me check our inventory. Give me 2 days, 3 days later. Antique Buyers. We have it. A client brought it in 4 months ago. It is in perfect condition. We can sell it for $850. You found it, I whispered. I found it, confirmed Michael. His eyes shone. It is in St. Louis, at an antique store. The owner sent me photos. It is Dad's watch, Mom. I am sure. He showed me the photographs. There it was, the silver watch with its vine leaf engravings, the lid closed. And in the last photo, the back with the inscription I myself had ordered engraved 40 years ago. How did you find it? I searched the internet for months, contacted more than 50 antique stores, pawn shops, collectors. I sent photos to everyone. Nobody had anything until this week. This man in St. Louis answered me. $850. I am buying it, he said quickly. I already set aside the money. I travel this weekend to pick it up. I want to return it to you, Mom. I want Leo to have what he should have had from the beginning. I cried right there, standing in the middle of the living room. I cried like I had not cried since that night of the lost watch. Michael hugged me and cried too. Forgive me, he whispered against my shoulder, for everything, for not seeing, for not defending, for choosing wrong so many times. I already forgave you, son. Months ago, I forgave you. Really? Really. The following Sunday. Michael returned from St. Louis. He arrived directly from the bus terminal, without passing by his apartment. He knocked on the door at 7 in the evening with a small box in his hands. He opened it in front of me. There it was, Robert's silver watch, clean, polished, working. The second hand marked time with that soft tick-tock I remembered from when Robert took it out of his pocket to check the hour. I took it with trembling hands, brought it close to my chest, closed my eyes. Thank you, was all I could say. Thank you, Mom, for everything, forever, in July. During a Sunday dinner, it had become a tradition every 2 weeks. Linda looked for me in the kitchen while I prepared coffee. Emily, there is something I want you to know. Tell me. I stopped talking to my mom. I looked up, surprised. Well, not entirely, she corrected. But I set boundaries, serious boundaries. I told her I do not want her to advise me on how to handle my marriage or my money. I told her that her lessons of a smart woman almost destroyed my family. She hung up the phone. We've not spoken in 3 weeks. And how do you feel about that? Scared, sad, but also free. She wiped a tear. All my life, I tried to be like her. Strong, calculating, always thinking of my own benefit. I thought that was being smart, but it is not. It is just being lonely. It is not easy to unlearn what they taught you since childhood. No, but I have to do it. For Michael, for Leo, for me. She looked at me directly. And because I do not want my son to grow up believing it is okay to use the people who love you, I nodded. It is a good start. In September, 11 months after that explosive scene, Linda made the last payment of the note, $18,400 complete, with interest included. The bank notification arrived a Tuesday morning. Susan called me immediately. Did you see? I saw. She paid everything. It is over. Over? I repeated, and the word felt like a door closing softly, without slamming, without violence, just closure. That afternoon I invited Michael, Linda, and Leo to dinner. I did not tell them why, just that it was important. When they arrived, I had the table set with my ceramic tableware. I had cooked lasagna, the dish Michael asked for on every birthday since he was a boy. We ate amidst laughter and anecdotes. Leo was walking wobbly now, saying complete sentences of 2 words, more bread, cold water, Nana, look, after dessert. I took something out of my purse. It was a manila envelope. This is for you, I said, sliding it across the table towards Linda. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was the original promissory note she had signed 11 months ago, crossed diagonally with a red stamp that said, paid in full. You paid your debt, I said. All of it. With interest. This document no longer has legal value. It is yours to keep or destroy. Linda took the paper. Her lower lip began to quiver. I do not know what to say. You do not have to say anything. I just want you to understand something. I leaned forward. The money was never the most important thing. The important thing was respect, honesty, the acknowledgement that what you did was wrong, and that you already gave. Do you forgive me then? Really? I looked at her. I saw a different woman from the one I met 2 years ago, more tired, yes, less made up, less polished, but more real, more human. I forgive you. I do not forget. I will never forget. But I forgive. She got up from her chair, went around the table and hugged me. It was a long hug, tight, wet with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not giving up on us. October arrived with clear skies and with a surprise. Michael and Linda organized a party for Leo's 2nd birthday, this time in a public park, modest, with 20 guests, no professional decorators or gourmet catering, just balloons, homemade sandwiches, and a cake from the neighborhood bakery. But the important thing was something else. When the photographer, a friend of Michael's who did the favor for free, finished taking photos, Linda called me aside. I want you to see something. She took out her phone, showed me the digital album, 120 photos in total, and I appeared in 53. 53 photos where I was holding Leo, cutting the cake, singing happy birthday, laughing with Susan, sitting with my grandson on my lap. 53 photos where I was not background or accident. I was grandma. I was family. I was visible. This time you are in, said Linda with a soft voice. This time I included you in every important moment because you belong there. I could not speak. I just nodded while tears ran free. That night, back at home, I sat in my living room surrounded by my recovered things, Robert's photographs on the walls, the linen curtains, the ceramic tableware in the sideboard, the silver watch stored in its red velvet box, safe, at home. I thought of the whole road traveled, the humiliation swallowed, the money lost and recovered, the sold jewelry that would never return, but that no longer hurt so much, the watch I thought lost forever and that now rested meters from me, beating with time. I thought of Linda and her imperfect but real transformation, of Michael learning to use his voice, of Leo growing up in a home more honest than the one he almost had. I thought of myself, of the Emily who opened the door 2 years ago without knowing she was opening the door to her own exploitation, and of the Emily now who had learned that love without limits is not love. It is self-destruction. I took my phone, wrote a message in the family group that now only included Michael, Linda, Susan, and me. Thanks for today. It was perfect. I love you. See you soon. The answers came fast. Michael, we love you, Mom. Thanks for everything. Always. Linda, thanks for giving us another chance. We won't waste it. Susan, proud of you, little sister. I smiled, turned off the phone, prepared a chamomile tea, and sat in the armchair Robert and I bought on our 5th anniversary. Outside. The city breathed its nocturnal breath of millions of intertwined lives. Every lit window was a story. Every story had its pain and its hope. Mine had had both. And now, finally, I had something more important. Peace. Because I learned something in these 2 years of silent battle. True wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take from you. They did not allow taking my dignity. They did not allow taking my voice. They did not allow taking the right to set boundaries and demand respect. And that, in the end, was worth more than any amount of money. It was worth more than $18,400. It was worth more than a silver watch. It was worth everything. Future generations. Leo and the children he may one day have will grow up knowing this story. They will know that their paternal grandmother was a woman who forgave without forgetting, who loved without allowing abuse, who was kind without being a fool. And when Leo grows up, when he is old enough to understand, I will give him his grandfather Robert's silver watch. I will tell him the story of how it was lost and how it was found. I will teach him that objects are not just objects. They are memory. They are love. They are bridges between generations. But above all, I will teach him that forgiveness is possible, that families break and repair, that true love has thorns, but also flowers, and that, sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who has been hurt the deepest and, even so, chooses not to turn into stone. End of story.